and it has a very classic looking twin tip setup. Oh!
Exciting times here at Speed Academy. We now have our prototype NX suspension coilover setup for the Celica. This is like, if not the first true bolt-on solution, it's certainly the first true bolt-on solution of a quality of this nature for this chassis. And it is still a prototype, so it's not on their website yet, but they do plan to offer this soon. And as you can see, it's got like the integrated spindle on it, just like their A86 offering, which they do have on their website. So if you're an A86 guy, you can get that kit there now. Comes with the roll center adjuster, Swift spring upgrade is what we went with. And you can see we've gone with a 5K spring in the front. And as you will see shortly, we're gone with a 4K spring in the rear. So this is a significant reduction in spring rate to what we had on the car, because the car to me was just too stiff. I should also mention it does have their prototype camber caster plates. So as you can see, it has a very large range of adjustability for camber in the center slot here. And then the bolt holes are also slotted for caster. This is a new and unique product for them. You can see their current style has less range of adjustability for camber and no adjustability for caster. Also want to point out it has a special proprietary NVH reducer here underneath this hat. It's like a rubber layer in here, which will reduce NVH, which is important to me. Plus there's a roller bearing in there so that as the spring rotates, it won't bind and makes like weird clicking, popping noises the way it would if there wasn't a bearing in there. So if you guys want to order a set of NX coilovers of your own, then jump on over to nxsuspension.com and use code SPEEDACADEMY for $125 off either their Fast Road Pro setup like these, or they also offer their Club Spec Pros like I run on my Integra Type R, which worked amazingly well. Really pumped to get these on the car and see how they ride, because I'm really confident they're going to improve the ride quality a lot. And that's because they put a lot of effort into all of that measuring and then, you know, executing the engineering side of it, not just so it fits on here physically, but for customizing the damper's behavior for these spring rates and for the geometries on this car. All right, with the suspension bolted in place now, we are going to put on the wheels and tires. But before that, we've got to put on a wheel spacer, because these John Sabal designed flares made by Tim at Industry Garage. If you didn't see the videos of these being built, you can jump over onto the Street Bandito YouTube channel to see that. So to get the wheel out to be like approximating flush, we need a 25 mil spacer in the rear. I already had these long ARP wheel studs in place, and apparently I was clairvoyant, thinking I was going to run a giant wheel spacer in the future. You'll also notice with this adapter in the middle that it's now hub centric to the hub, and this ring is Toyota Celica or A86 size, so it's like 61 mil. However, my work wheels are like 73 mil, so Work Wheels actually makes a centering ring for Toyota to that wheel bore center. So that goes on there, and now I'll have a hub-centric wheel, hub-centric spacer, everything's hub-centric. I shouldn't have any vibrations. It should be all good. And there you have it. These are our Work Keep 40s in a 15:9 -3 offset. And with that 25 mil spacer, it means they're now a -28 offset.
DP, you're a baller. Holy, -28?
Man, yeah, I could go with like their more aggressive face and more lip, because we actually have some room here, as you'll see on the ground. And as for tires, we did actually change out from those big old chunky 225 50/15s that were on the car before for a set of Continental Extreme Contact Sport O2s. This is their latest and greatest ultra high performance summer tire. But the good news is we have gained performance by going to a street tire and away from what was basically a track tire. And more importantly, we've gained clearance because we've gone down to a 205 50/15, which means we have a lower overall diameter and we have a more stretched sidewall. And we did that for the front, not really for the rear, because we've got really good clearance in the rear, but in the front, in full lock, the old tires were rubbing on the flares. So to clear it properly, we wanted to go to a slightly smaller diameter tire, a bit more of a stretch tire. And I think they actually look really cool. At first I was like, is this much stretch going to look a little weird? But I actually think it's very fitting on a classic car to have this much stretch on this wide a wheel. So very happy with the look, and I know I'll be very happy with the performance. So now is the time for the, dare I say, dreaded experience of aligning this car. Everything is adjustable. We've got so much adjustability on here, it's kind of nuts. We also need to set the pinion angle. There's a lot to do. It's gonna take us probably a half a day to do this, but we're gonna save you guys the agony of that and just maybe time lapse some of it so you can get a flavor for it. But believe me, you don't wanna do this yourself unless you're a serious masochist like I am. Well, there you have it. The alignment is done. The car is at its final ride height. And wow, there was a lot of work that went on before we set up that string box and actually did the alignment. And the alignment actually went very quickly and easily because we did all that work ahead of time to square up the axle on the chassis, to square up all the arms on the front because they were way off for reasons we don't fully understand, probably because we were fiddling around with it when the Annex guys were here, and you know, that's not been on the car for years. Anyway, a lot of effort went into getting everything squared up, but you will still notice that there's some variation side to side on the car, and that's because these are custom handmade one-off fender flares. And the more we've played with the suspension setups and taken a million measurements, the more we've realized that each of the four flares is a little bit different, and it's causing, you know, wheel well gap to be tight on the front on this side of the car and wider at the back. But on the other side, if we run over there really quickly, we can show you that the wheel is nicely centered front to back. We've got a nice, you know, even sized gap front to rear. And that all just comes down to the contour of the fender flare. So the axle is square under the car. If we moved that side back, then this side would be too far back. So we've kind of like tried to
have a crab walker.
Yeah, so we need the axle to be square, and this is the gap that we've ended up with. We also had some weird ride height variation going on, which again comes down to the fender flares. So we've taken a couple of the lock collars off the annex coilover on this side so that we could lower this side more, because without it, we had too much wheel well gap here. And that's not because of differences on the coilovers, that's because of differences in the contour of the fender flare. So this one has more, it's basically a shorter flare slightly, and that's creating more visual gap. So we basically went with this gap as our base for the rest of the car, because this is as low as we could get this corner, and we kind of set the rest of the car up based on that. This is just the thing we're learning about building custom cars, heavily modified ones like this, and then having Tim build these flares by hand, really by eye, off of John Sabal's drawings, without there being wheels and tires on the car, really made it very difficult for him to create perfectly, symmetrical fender flares on all four corners. Really what we should have done in hindsight is taken the front, cross member and suspension down and the rear axle down to him and made it a rolling chassis so that he could have built the flares at the ride height we wanted and at the, with the wheels in the position we wanted. And that way these gaps could have all been made perfect. But we've spoken with Tim about it. He's well aware of the problem. So if you were planning to buy a set of these fender flares, they're not ready yet. But I think this winter the car may go back to Tim, or maybe Tim will come up here for a little while. We'll dial these in. We'll probably have to do a little bit of cutting, a little modifying, a little relaying carbon fiber, and then painting and all that. I mean, I think if you step back and you just take it in for what it is, it really is a thing of beauty. I love the way the car looks. I'm really very happy with the ride height where it is. I think it's a very practical, realistic ride height for where we live. And I even cleaned up the wheels just to make them all look shinier, and the car looks amazing. So I'm not complaining, I'm just filling you guys in on the reality of building a custom car like this. Just out of curiosity, we've thrown NV Auto's intercom scales on our stands here, and as you can see, Connie currently weighs 2,155 pounds, which is pretty impressive. I mean, that's like a gutted EG hatchback or like a CRX. It's light. However, interestingly, the front weight is 54% and the rear is 45%. Anyway, we are missing a few things for weight. We need to put the hood on and the front and rear windscreen. So what I'm gonna do is just weigh those individually, and that'll give us a total finished weight for Connie. Just weighing the last piece of glass here. This is the rear windscreen, which is filthy and it will get cleaned before it gets installed. And it weighs 221 pounds, including me at 209 pounds. So that means it's a 12-pound piece of glass, and I've weighed the front and the hood as well. So that gives us a total of 71 pounds with the hood and the front and rear windscreen, which brings our total up to 2,226 pounds. So she's pretty light. By modern car standards, that's like as light or lighter than a new ND Miata, which is probably the lightest car you can buy today. So she's light, she's a little nose heavy, beam seal will make good noises. She'll go pretty quick in a straight line.
There we go. Okay, we're in. Excellent.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah, complete.
Only took half a day.
No, it took us a 2 hour.
It was a couple hours of work, and
Yeah.
really, once we figured out the process on the back, the front went much easier.
Yeah, yeah.
It's usually how it goes with these old cars.
Yeah. It's tricky with these hard moldings,
Yes.
It's a lot of the clips are finicky.
They're on there solid. So.
I know. We didn't introduce any glue, so we're letting the factory
seal do its thing.
Yeah.
I should also mention Adam's based here in like Southern Ontario, Niagara region.
Falls. Yep.
So if you're looking for a mobile glass guy, you will do jobs mobily?
Workshops in Niagara, but I'm on the road more now than ever.
And you're not afraid to work on old cars or JDM
well,
cars?
yes and no. I'm always threatened by the gaskets and the trim and, you know, distorting stuff. But I'm learning, you know, as I go. And I'm glad we had good success with this one.
We sure did. It looks great. So there you go, everybody. Froggy Auto Glass, Niagara Falls. You might even see them at the Dirt Oval go-kart track.
With the suspension finally done, we can tackle the muffler here. And what we are doing is we are getting rid of the old Cannon, the big boy Cannon, more suited to a modern JDM or Japanese style vehicle. And what we are going with is Vibrant's new universal black muffler, and it has a very classic looking twin tip setup. I really dig this. I think it's certainly, you know, Euro inspired, but it fits on this build tremendously well. The downside though is, if you guys watched before, you will know that we had an issue where the exhaust system, the current one that was on here, the muffler, the rear section here was hitting our panhard bar here. So what we had to do here was cut it up, and now what I'm gonna do is figure out how to make this fit into here without hitting this. You can see we've raised the car up now, or sorry, the axle all the way up to like its highest point. So here's a quick update as to where I'm at with this thing. I don't know if you want to call this me getting lazy or just being crafty. I ended up reusing a big portion of the actual section that we cut off the previous exhaust, and that was this section here. You can see I added a 92.5 bend into the muffler, and then just added a small little section here to raise this up. And now if we raise this, I'm not gonna go all the way up, but we now have a ton more clearance here where this will not contact here, which is gonna be really good. The last thing left to do here is to pull this off, weld it up, and put it back on, and let's see if anything deviates, warps. It always does, but it's just to what point. There is our welded exhaust system finalized, and it is looking good. Let me drop this car for you guys to show you what it's gonna look like. I think Vibrant has really nailed it with this muffler DP. I love it.
It looks perfect.
I absolutely love it. Like, this looks super period correct.
It does.
And the fact that the muffler is all black, like in this area here, we would have had more bling. Now it just hides it. Like, you have two period correct exhaust tips is what it looks like, and just, I love it. I'm gonna, you know, kind of pat myself on the back here. I did such a great job here. Holy smokes, I surprised myself for once.
You know what, since Pete did such a good job on that muffler, I think we gotta finally put the Speed Academy name on this car with, you know, just a tasteful little license plate frame like we often use.
Is this considered vintage at this point, DP, the license plate frame?
It kind of is vintage, isn't it? We haven't sold these in probably years now. We do get requests for them, but we're just so busy building cars, we don't seem to really have the time to like restock our store. So we do apologize if you're looking for a new hat or a license plate frame or a key chain or any of that stuff that we used to sell. We are looking into options to start doing that again, but we want to fulfill it through like a third party because we just don't have time to be like boxing stuff and shipping it ourselves anymore. So stay tuned for an update on that. But in the meantime, let's just admire how good Connie is looking if I can only find the hole. Well, with the muffler on there, man, we don't have many jobs left to do on this car, do we, Pete? We pretty much have to wrap up a few bits of wiring, which Nam from Enviata is going to come and take care of tomorrow night. And other than that, we need to fit up a drive shaft. And as you guys will have known from previous episodes, we did have a little bit of drama sourcing the correct carrier bearing for this drive shaft. But after learning some lessons, I discovered you can actually buy this from Toyhead Auto, who toyotaauto.com is actually in the United States. And he stocks a lot of parts for first-gen Celicas. And the advantage of that is that he can get it to you quickly and really, I think at a very fair price within North America within like a couple of days. And this is an identical replica of the OEM center bearing for this drive shaft, so it should just go on without any drama. Well, as you can see, we do have the new carrier bearing in place, and we had to preload it quite a bit toward the front. which is causing this rubber, bushing area to kind of push out this way. But in looking at the one that it replaced, it's exactly the same. It's pushed out on this side and pushed in on the back side. So we're thinking that's just the way these were designed, maybe to be preloaded. We're hoping that's the case. Anyway, we're going to find out the hard way, but it is in. Everything's buttoned up nice and tight. So this driveline is officially complete. Cha-ching.
I am now officially into OT here on Dave's car, and so is Nam. He is here to finish up the wiring so we can get this thing fired back up and finalized in terms of all of the electrical stuff. And it is 7:30, so we're going to be here probably pretty late working on this stuff, but we will keep you updated as to how things are going. And wow, the time has passed quickly. It is almost midnight, but we've made some progress here. Nam, show them what we got. We got headlights, which is good. We've done all the wiring, so that's done. We got a horn, right? Ooh, that's a terrible sounding horn, but we've got a horn. We've got everything else wired in essentially. I guess there's just a couple small little things left, and we'll be good to go, right? So
yeah.
We're 90% of the way there.
We're getting close.
Yeah,
we're almost there.
Super close. So that is essentially it for us now. And we'll let Dave do the honors tomorrow morning to start this thing up again. And next morning here, Dave is back.
I am.
Are you ready, DP?
I am ready. I hear good things. I've been told the starter issue is fixed and it's ready to fire up. So maybe I should just jump in there and turn the key.
Let's do it, man.
See if it moves maybe even a little bit.
Yeah. And I want to hear the exhaust system.
Oh, that's true. This will be the first time we hear the exhaust, right?
Exactly.
All right. Let's see how she sounds.
Fire this beauty up here.
All right. So, clutch in. Oh, I hear the fuel pump priming. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Here we go. Oh, you know what? It is quieter than before.
It's got a deep tone.
Deeper tone. It's definitely not as loud either, which is really good.
Wow, yeah, like it's got a really, really good deep tone here. Listen to this thing. Oh! Uh-oh, he doesn't have the steering wheel on. There you go.
I've got brakes. It moves. I mean, what more can a man ask for? A car that brakes that moves under its own power. Just crossing the last few things off the list here. And first of all, let me say a huge thank you to Nam and NV Auto, who came in after hours, did a huge amount of work on the wiring to get everything sorted out so that the car is ready to run and drive and do all those street things. So thank you, Nam, you're a legend as always. And if you guys need custom wiring done and you're in the area or really anywhere, give NV Auto a shout and talk to Nam because he can take care of you. He really is a wiring genius. So nvauto.ca, you'll find them there. And yes, we still have install the hood on the list and we still have sync the ITBs on the list, and that's stuff you will see in the next episode. And this is, I think, a wrap on day 17 or day 18. Maybe this is a wrap on day 18, PT. We've honestly kind of lost track. It's been such a mad thrash for the last week or so with Adam coming by to do the glass and Nam coming by to work on wiring until midnight last night. So the day count is kind of done. I think realistically, we're probably 20 days into it in terms of like total 8-hour work days because there's been some late nights here recently. So let's call it 20 days to finish this build, PT. Is that a fair number, you think?
I think we're good, man.
Yeah. Which kind of puts us right in the middle of our two predictions. Me at 15, you at 28. And
exactly.
So, I think...
It's only been 2 months in real time, but whatever.
It's been close to 2 months, hasn't it? I think we're a month and 3 weeks or something.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging in there. Super excited to have this thing wrapped up and show it to you on the dyno and on the street in the next episode. And remember, everyone, drive fast, take chances, and never trust a man who owns more than one BMW. Right, PT?